Alright guys, before we get started, I'd like to give a huge shout out to my patron Majora. Man, without you, I wouldn't be doing this right now. Your support means the world to me. It's what keeps me going. So yeah, thanks so much. One of my favorite characters of all time, Amy Sorrell, adopted daughter of Raphael Sorrell, once said, "You care for far too many things." And by once, I mean it's one of her three victory dialogues in Soul Calibur 6. While I suspect her experiences and motivations have led her to having the same logic for adhering to that mindset as I do, the context in which she came to agree with and adopt said phrase isn't what I plan on tackling today, but rather the phrase itself. But don't worry. An analysis of Amy's characters coming eventually. Probably. See, thousands of years ago, our ancestors were hunters, gatherers, and even traders. If you could go back even further, we weren't even traders. We just kind of did shit. Even further, we weren't even humans. Even before that, we weren't even mammals, but a fish or some other aquatic animal. Point is, money isn't real, and words are even less real. Value is real, as is communication. Economies, languages, and laws. We made all of it up. And it's essentially free will in that no one but ourselves is forcing us to make all these concepts. There's no God compelling us to adhere to these concepts. Now, I'm both a Norse and Celtic pagan, so don't take this as me saying that believing in a God is dumb or objectively incorrect. I may be a lot of things, but a hypocrite isn't one of them. What I am saying is, if we all just woke up one day and decided to abolish money altogether, instead opting to assist one another just because, we totally could. There's nobody stopping us. And I mean nobody. This is also why I believe human sex and gender are inherently non-binary. Taking into consideration that we live in a cis-heteronormative patriarchy, I suppose I should probably elaborate on what I mean by humans inherently being NB, or non-binary. For discussions like this, it's best to begin with establishing definitions so as to ensure we're all talking about the same things and everyone is clearly understood. The primary definition we'll be focusing on is the definition of binary. I'll be establishing two different definitions for binary. One being the connotation and one being the common connotation and the other being sociological definition. So, for transparency's sake, even though every definition is practically the same with very little difference outside of scope, I will still be listing both relevant definitions here. Firstly, Merriam-Webster's first definition defines binary as, well, exactly what it sounds like. Quote, something made of two things or parts, end quote. Which, fun fact, this definition actually predates the invention of the binary number system. By nearly 200 years, having been coined in the 15th century, while the number system was invented by Gottfried Leibniz. I apologize if I butchered that. In the late 1600s, specifically around 1679. As for sociology, the Encyclopedia Britannica had this to say, quote, gender binary. System that classifies sex and gender into pair of opposites, often imposed by culture, religion, or other societal pressures. Within the gender binary system, all of the human population fits into one of two genders, man or woman. Now, if for some reason you don't want to trust the Encyclopedia Britannica, there are a number of other sociology sites that define binary in a nigh identical manner. The only differences being in how detailed they are. For example, umass.edu says, quote, binaries are social constructs composed of two parts that are framed as absolute and unchanging opposites. Binary systems reflect the integration of these oppositional ideas into our culture. This results in an exaggeration of differences between social groups until they seem to have nothing in common. End quote. Now that I've established both definitions, let's move on to why I think we are inherently genderless. It's actually incredibly simple. We made it up. We wanted to. The word, or if we wanted to, the word for man could be something like cheese. The woman could be lavender. And even if you want to say I'm arguing semantics and that either would, could, and would still be based on and tied to inherent, immutable biological sex characteristics, I have a few things I'd like to say about that. 1. What immutable inherent characteristics are you referring to? If it's chromosomes, when's the last time you had yours examined? Do you have a record? How do you know you're the sex you say you are? If it's gametes, what about people with no gametes? 3. It would seem that sex being non-binary isn't a hot take even among a good amount of biologists, who would rather call sex bimodal than binary. The difference being that bimodal is a spectrum, whereas binary is a strict two-part system with no overlap. Granted, I am explicitly not saying that there's a scientific consensus. There isn't, as far as I'm aware. 4. Humans, as we are today, are almost more sociological than biological in terms of how we interact with not just the world, but with ourselves as a collective species. Consider, in a vacuum, biological sex is only meaningfully relevant in reproductive and or medicinal contexts, especially when compared to biological sex is arbitrarily tied to, such as physical prowess, which follows a bimodal model rather than the strict binary gender critical people would prefer to strongly adhere to. I'm running out of time, so if you want more of my thoughts on this topic, either leave a comment down below or hit me on one of my socials, all of which are linked in the description. Value, be it economic or otherwise, is subjective and arbitrary. In fact, I'd argue that it's precisely because value is so personally subjective that quantifying it numerically is a gross oversimplification and a disservice. What I believe is a far better method of value quantification is through the trading of other value. Now, of course, I'm sure this sounds dumb and like I'm doing a baby-first economy, but I promise this is going somewhere. Now, in theory, I'm a social capitalist, which is to say that I don't actually mind using money for goods and services. But I don't even take issue with the rich inherently. But what I do take issue with is the idea that we have billionaires and even damn near trillionaires, but we've got children starving to death and unhoused people sleeping, spending winters freezing and dying in our streets and streets all across the world. In matters like this, I agree completely with the sentiment Tupac shared. Quote, I'm not saying if they earned it themselves that they don't deserve it or that I don't want them to have it, but I don't think we should be allowed to have billionaires while we still have people out there dying in the streets. I'll feel bad if I got $3,000 in my pocket and I only gave someone a couple dollars. I couldn't do it. If they spend it on drinks or whatever, I don't care. I have to give back. End quote. I'm paraphrasing, of course. I don't remember his exact quote word for word off the top of my head, but a link to the interview Ed quote originated from will be down in the description, along with my other sources as well as my Linktree, link into my social medias and other projects. That said, what does all this mean? I mean, Potts' quote was more about the personal responsibility of the privileged and successful wealthy to give back to their communities. So where does the social part of my theoretical social capitalism come in? Well, taxes, of course. So the thing is, we as humans have these things called communities, which is a collection of us, usually several families coexisting in a sort of tribe. And collectively, all of these tribes form to be what we call a society. Of course, I'm once again paraphrasing because this script is already the longest one I've ever written, and I'm a furry college dropout. If you came here looking for a super detailed and articulate video essay, go to someone like Swoop, Daryl Toss Games, or Super Eye Patch Wolf, all of which have wildly different styles, but they're all still video essays nonetheless. Except for Swoop, I guess, who describes herself as more of a documentary filmmaker, but who needs nuance when I have generalizations? I mean, have you seen my other videos? Come on. Be grateful I put this much effort in. Wow, that was mean. Be happy I put this much effort in. Jesus. anyway, anyway, these societies all have rules, both written laws and unwritten social contracts, that by living inside society we all agree to, which, as an autist, is wild to say, I understand. But society is by no means perfect. Laws in a capitalistic, white supremacist patriarchy are often corrupt, as are the people writing and especially enforcing them. ACAB. Which is why, unfortunately, my social capitalist theory is purely a hypothetical dream. But that's a different video for a different day and a less tired Lulu. Moving on. Republicans, anti-globalists, and ICE are not gonna like this one. I'll tell you fucking what. Fuck it, we ball. Borders don't exist. They're not real. We made them up. Again, I'm not a socialist or even a historian. I'm just a college dropout. No yay. So I am not an expert in history or the logic behind humans doing things. I am, however, autistic, and one of my special interests is sociology. That said, I won't speculate on the specific nitty-gritty as to why some stupid and or desperate people did or do stupid and or desperate shit. Jesus fucking Christ. I will say that for a lot of them, it was a resource issue. Hell, two of the most famous instances, or maybe it should be infamous, whatever. Two of the most famous instances of colonization and pillaging were primarily motivated by desperation, because people were starving or otherwise struggling to survive due to a lack of resources such as fertile land and proper accommodations for harsh or extreme weather conditions. That being the Norse, specifically the Vikings, and the Mongols. Now, while what both groups did and were arguably forced to do were evil, atrocious acts that they took too far, unless you have a time machine, there's nothing we can do about the past. That being the case, that doesn't mean I think we should do nothing. At all. I'm a fucking socialist, for fuck's sake. We have the resources. The only reason people are starving and struggling to survive in the year of Our Lady, the Morrigan, 2023, is simply because we have decided to play God and arbitrarily enforce a false and erroneous meritocracy that says if you don't produce value to society, that if you aren't valuable or marketable, then you don't deserve to eat, that you don't deserve shelter, and that you don't deserve happiness. I damn. This is such a crazy long video, and the fact that I was able to sit down and write this script for nearly 4 hours is crazy. I'm actually super excited and proud of myself. I also blame insomnia and autistic inertia, but I'm gonna ignore those. I actually had so much more I wanted to say and include into this video, but like I said already, I've been writing this for damn near 4 fucking hours. 4 hours. Anyway, the whole moral of this video is that if someone says that's just the way it is, you can't change it, you might as well accept it, or something along those lines. It's a red flag, and you have to always keep in mind that even if they are right, they're only half right. It may be the way it is now, but it doesn't have to be that way. A lot of the world's problems would cease if people just stopped caring. This is, again, strictly in the sociological sense. Most, if not every, uniquely human issue is caused via bigotry, whether blatant or indirectly. And with that being said, you guys let me know what you think. Are you guys enjoying these sort of video essay style videos where I just kind of throw a topic and just kind of shoot my opinion out on there on that topic? Let me know in the comments. Like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see y'all later. Thank you so much.